Welcome to the Paths We Take podcast. I'm your host, Jordan DeSange. Let's hit a path. Hey there, and welcome back to the Paths We Take. Now, today's episode is another running episode. I know this isn't technically a running podcast, but of course, running has a massive influence on my life, hence why I love exploring the topic. So today I'm joined by Fraser Darcy. Fraser is a South Australian runner. He essentially talks to us today about his path, his journey with running, his journey with climbing, his journey between trails, road running, kind of him winning races around South Australia, and just his journey up to this point. So we get into the marathon, we get into a few tips potentially for you out there as well, and just his strategies and how somebody at the elite level attacks a marathon. Thank you for tuning in, and let's get into today's episode. All right, let's get into today's sponsor. Most activewear is made to look good standing still, but the Cover House is built for movement. Now, the Cover House is a brand new Australian running brand. It is for chasing PBs. It is for training. It is for your first marathon. It is for your first 5K, your first 1K. Whatever it might be, the Cover House is for running. Your gear should move with you, not against you. So the Cover House is built by runners. It is tested by runners, meaning that all of the garments are tested so that runners like it, runners love it, and runners would want to wear it during their training, racing, whatever it might be. Every piece is designed with either lightweight fabrics, super stretchy, unrestricted movement, and just all day comfort in mind. So if you wanted to wear the things all day, you could. There are no distractions, no overcomplicated designs, just performance-driven apparel that actually feels good and looks good to wear too. So visit kova.house, KOVA.HAUS, and you can score yourself some great brand new running gear. They have recently launched. They have a new singlet and a new pair of shorts out currently, with a whole bunch of other things to come over the next 6 months. Thank you to the Cover House for sponsoring today's episode, and I definitely recommend this to anybody listening. So yeah, welcome to the podcast, Fraser. Thanks for coming on, and excited to chat.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Now, Fraser, the first question that I ask everybody, I just told you that anything goes, and there's no structure, but there is one question that I ask every guest, and that is, if the person listening right now had an autobiography in front of them and it was your story, what are some things that you think they would find in that story?
I think they would find that anytime I have a goal or a project, then I eventually get there in the end, and working towards it in a set of processes that I apply no matter what the project is, and we'll eventually get there, make my own mistakes along the way like most people.
Yeah.
But eventually, if I've motivated enough, I get there, which is the cool thing.
Okay. Have you always been that way? Or is that something that you feel like has grown over the years?
I feel like the more I've lent into it, it's definitely grown over the years, and more so when I back myself more and go and really know my why towards why I'm doing things and focus on that. And then I'll get to the end of what I'm seeking. And if it gets clouded, then that's when, you start to question yourself. But if I work hard enough and know my why, and then I'll get there. That's what I think it would say.
That's a good philosophy, I think. Pretty good way to look at things, really. When it comes to running, because of course that's why I'm having you here on the podcast, what does the biography look like there? When did that journey start for you?
Yeah, it would look a lot different to most people's. Okay. I mean, everyone has a different running journey, but for me, it started in high school. I have an older brother, and he would go running training for football preseason, and I saw very clearly that, okay, whatever training he did for running would correlate to a result. He would get better at footy, he would get more of the ball, and he would make development teams. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just do the same thing as him because that's what younger brothers do. And so I would do my own runs around the block. And then suddenly that meant I was good at cross country and I would represent the school in variety of 50K relays, 100K relays. But I was never in a part of an athletics club. I kind of had my own football teams, tennis, hockey, cricket. So I was always just doing my own running, but then playing other sports competitively, unless it was school cross country. After school, I did a few races and mainly just like trail running, and a bunch of friends would be like, hey, we're going to do a ultra marathon. We're all going to train up for it. Would you be interested? And these were friends that we would do bushwalking work together or rock climbing trips and kayaking trips. So it was just another adventure for us, really. That was something we could train for in our own times and then do the race together. Then a few more years went past and I started getting a bit more serious, and I did a road marathon, and then I did a few more trail races, and then my rock climbing started going off as well. And so I was juggling a few sports at the same time, which is kind of what I did at school, juggled a few sports. And then COVID came through and basically shut everything down, as everyone remembers. And then I had a decision to make about whether I was going to keep training for races that suddenly weren't on anymore, or keep climbing. And I could go climbing whenever I wanted still, like you're allowed to go to your national park in COVID. And I was starting to get to a point with my climbing where I was using my running as an excuse for why I wasn't better than I was. So I thought, screw this, I'm going to stop the running for a bit and just focus fully on climbing, and knuckled down and really enjoyed my climbing and got quite scientific about my training, which I'd never done before for running or climbing. And then after a year or two of doing that with climbing, I was like, oh, I could actually apply the same sort of, same process to my running training and see where that gets me now.
Yeah.
And sure enough, same thing happened. I started to get more interested in my running again because my work situation changed. I moved out to Corn in the Flinders Ranges and basically didn't have any rock climbing partners to travel and climb with. So I just had a lot of time to run. Did that and started entering races for competition, started doing really well, and then just continued that on for the next, that's basically like 3 or 4 years ago. That's kind of what's led me to be where I am now.
What was that strategy from climbing that really changed things, do you think?
Just in climbing, a lot of it's based on, there's a tool you use called a hangboard, and you essentially strap weight to yourself with like a weight hanging off your harness, and you might hang for 7 seconds and rest for 53. And the science behind like a protocol like that is very particular about, you might have 12 kilograms one week and then 14 kilograms the next week, and you change it between sets. And the math side of my brain was I really enjoyed that and seeing progression there. The thing is with like hangboard training, that doesn't directly correlate to your rock climbing performance. So some people get really excited about, I can do a 40 kilogram 3-finger hang and I climb grade 24. Some people wouldn't have any idea what they could hang with their fingers, but they can climb grade 26. So it's kind of a bit funny, but like I really enjoyed the training aspect of it. And then you take that to running, and running is the same thing. Like you might have a session of 8x1K, and whatever pace you hold or what heart rate you do it at and the float recoveries, you've got all these variables you can play with. And then that translates into a race a lot more consistently than with climbing. There's so many variables in one particular climb that you could never fully train and isolate them all in training. Whereas in running, it's much more simpler to go, if I do X amount of mileage at Y paces and have this much recovery, I should be able to hit this result in this weather conditions. Whereas in climbing, that just doesn't exist. And so then I was like, okay, well, I really like this process of here's the numbers, here's what I have to do, here's how I have to think about it, and these are the results I can get. And yeah, then we just went along on the adventure of that.
Yeah. I guess that's very interesting to me because not a lot of people think of it that way. And I think to carry that over into a different, like you have two different activities, running and climbing. And I think a skill is a skill. So to be able to carry it over into a completely different skill is quite cool in that regard. When it comes to carrying it over to running, were you able to transition things in quite quickly, or what did that look like?
I still had quite a big history of running from before I'd stopped it. So I was able to, yeah, just pick up like 80 to 100K weeks jogging because climbing, you need to be quite fit. And you're walking around with like a 20 kilo rucksack for an hour or two to go climbing. Like you have to be quite fit. So, and you're quite strong. And so transitioning back into running was pretty straightforward. Just jogged and got my volume up to 80 to 100Ks. And then, yeah, I could listen to podcasts about different training sessions and then just experiment with it myself. Because, yes, there is that whole science side that got me interested back into running. But the reason why I really like running is just the how good it just feels to run. When you're fit and you're just flowing on trails, road, and you're just in control and you switch off from all those data variables and you just really enjoy a run. It's a bit like when you build a house, you've got to focus on all the particulars to get the house right and get the location and the construction, the material. But then once you've built the house and it's 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon and the sun's setting at the right angle and you're on your veranda, that's when you start to enjoy it. And you don't need data or you don't need to know that you're enjoying it. You just are. And so that's what always guides me with my running to get to that point. And if I'm at that point, then I'm generally doing quite well.
All right, you guys, Run is one of my favorite sunglasses brands here in Australia. They sell performance-driven sunglasses that look good, that are super crystal clear, but also have some amazing quality to them as well. It is another Australian-based brand. They are based out of Sydney, and they just sell some great looking sunglasses that can be worn for running, cycling, just walking, whatever it might be. They have something for everybody. Recently, they have just launched a brand new colorway through all of their sunglasses out there on the market. So you can get gold ones, you can get blue ones, they have pink ones. I literally have 3 or 4 different colors now. And I have not been wearing anything else for my runs. What I love about the Run Sunnies is that they adapt to the changes in light that you go through while you're running. So when you're running, it's so annoying needing to always take off your sunglasses because you're going through a shady part and then you're going to the sun and this and that. These sunglasses are built to adapt to the changes of light so that you can just keep them where they are and not need to have to worry about taking them on, putting them off, whatever it might be. Definitely check out Run. You could also use code Jordan10 to save yourself some money as well. So thank you, Ree, for providing that code. And score yourself some great sunnies. Thank you, guys. You were saying near the beginning that you're quite motivated person. You know, you always have been as well. What motivates you in running, do you think, or climbing, or all of the sport that you've done?
It's generally to do something that I haven't done before or go somewhere that I haven't gone before. So with the outdoor ed stuff that I used to do, a climbing is really simple. You just walk by a cliff and you'd be like, what's that climb? Like, that looks really cool. Like, I want to go there. And, or you see a picture in a guidebook and you're like, that looks awesome. Let's go plan a trip there. Same thing with skiing. You're just like, wow, that looks really cool. Kayaking, it might be an island that, you know, to get to, you'd need a $40,000-$50,000 boat, or you just buy a $3,000 kayak and paddle out there. The same thing with running. It's a bit different. Running, you'll always get there in a race or even just an afternoon jog. So the challenge becomes more of like, well, how fast can I get there and how in control, and what will that feel like to run, say, a 2:20 pace or a marathon or 14-minute pace or a 5K. I want to find out what that experience is like. And I'm just curious about that. And it could be a trail running race. You know, you might want to do a cool new route, or you might want to do the same route that you've done and just see how fast you can run it and see what that feels like.
So that path, you were saying that you transitioned back into running after, after that climbing transition, basically. Where did the path go from there back then?
From when I got back into running, I was working out at Corn as a lifeguard temporarily for the summer, and I was meant to go back and work on a school camp that I've done quite a lot of work for. COVID stuffed up some of the work that year, and I had to make a decision between whether I was going to go back and then jiggle around all my calendar for work, or whether I was going to stay up in Corn, keep enjoying my lifeguarding work and training whenever I wanted, and do that instead, which was a tough decision for me because I really enjoyed the work that I was doing in Outdoor Ed, but I also enjoyed the freedom and flexibility that I had found for myself. So probably can tell where the story went. I said no to the Outdoor Ed work, and I kept doing the lifeguarding. And I was a bit like angry at the situation that I had to choose. So then I just got into a couple of local trail running races and just took my anger out on that, and really just I won both those races. And I did those races to qualify for a local race that was a 50K around Melrose, around that. And as the year went on, I just kept on doing more and more local races because once you start winning, like it's pretty contagious. You're like, oh, I want to do more of this. I want to see if I can beat this person, or I want to, there's a series that Trail Running SA have, and I thought, oh, I'd like to see if I can win all 4 series races. And then from there, that was a whole year of basically trying to win as many races as possible and do as much training. The next year I was working as a lifeguard one day, and I get this message from a random phone number saying I should do this race in Melbourne, and then I should do this race in New South Wales, the Australian Mountain Running Championships. I didn't know this person, and they had been passed my name by someone in South Australian running, and they said, oh, I think you should encourage this person to do some more interstate races because they're currently beating people in South Australia on the trails. I hadn't raced on the roads at all at that point, and so, there's a lot far better runners than me on the roads at that point in time, and still. Anyway, I get this message when I'm working as a lifeguard, and I go, you know what, like I can get that weekend off to go to Melbourne and do the race. I've got family, friends over there that I can stay with. That'll be a cool new experience to just see where I stack up. I go over to Melbourne, stay with my family, friends, do this race, and I win it, which was pretty unexpected. I come back 2 weeks later, I go over to New South Wales for the Australian Mountain Running Championships, and the same thing happens. I'm leading the race 5 minutes into it, and I'm thinking, geez, I'm either going to blow up here and everyone's going to catch me, or I'm going to run away with it and be the Australian mountain running champion. And they did catch me at one point, and then I really questioned how well I was going to go, but I was lucky to hang on and won the race, which then really gave me a lot of confidence, and it also gave me a spot on the 2023 World Championships team. So that was a pretty pivotal moment where, having backed myself to focus on my running and focus on my own training, and then do a couple of races, win them, get a spot on the world's team, and go, right, I actually am doing pretty well at this. And that was just an awesome, I really remember the drive back from that race. It was like a 4-hour drive back to Sydney, and I was just like, I can't believe it actually happened the way you would have dreamed about. And that was really nice. And from there, I just kept building, and it's always just been about finding the right race or the right environment for me to challenge myself to a level that I think I would like to get to, but I'm just not sure. And not every time it has gone well. I went and did those World Championships, and I didn't have a great race, and that was an awesome experience though, because it was wow, you just don't get that in South Australia. And having that experience over in Austria was awesome, and probably one of the best things for my running. And so then when I went 2 years later for the 2025 World Champs, I was again better for it. And I'm always progressing as a runner. So
why do you think you leaned towards trail running? Was that something that you've always just did, or what's trail running give you, I think?
For me, there's 2 reasons. One, my family, where I grew up, we backed onto a national park reserve. So my regular daily run would be through trails, or I would drive up to Belair National Park and it would be an hour run over trails. And so I was running 100 Ks a week on trails, and I wouldn't think anything of it. It was just a nice place to run, or I would be camping and rock climbing, and, just trails are, you can go cool places with trails. You can't just rely on roads to get you to cool places. You won't see many cool things. The second thing is the book Born to Run was a very big motivator for me, maybe when I was 18, 19. And the storytelling in that book around Western states and the Tarahumara runners, like, it's incredible storytelling that really motivated me to be like, wow, maybe I can run like that and run forever. And just the whole story of it was motivating for me to, like, why wouldn't you run on trails? Like, you just didn't ask yourself. And the trails are also really nice because you're not looking down at your watch at your pace. You're just running to enjoyment. And as long as you're injury free, you're pretty happy.
When did the road running come to be?
In 2023, when I got onto the World Champs team, I realized, well, I'm going to need some serious competition, because at the moment I've won all the races in SA on the trails. I've gone interstate and I've been lucky to win. I knew that wouldn't happen every time I went interstate, but then then I came back home to Adelaide and I go, right, I need some more competition because I'm not going to win the World Championships. So I need to learn how to get beaten by people and have that experience. I thought, okay, I'll enter this half marathon down in McLaren Vale because there's an elite field and there's prize money and a bonus for running under 65 minutes. And that was a great experience. I came fourth in that race. And the time I ran there, thinking about it now, like, I didn't think much of it at the time. I thought, well, that's a pretty good time. But that was around 67:30, just behind Max Stevens, and Jacob and Riley Cox were in front of me. And that was a great race. And really, I guess I raced against those guys in high school and they would beat me by like 2 or 3 minutes in cross country easily. And so I never went onto the roads because I was like, well, there must be hundreds of those Jacob and Rileys and Maxes out there to beat me. If they're all beating me at cross country, like, must be more of them on the roads in different age groups. Little did I know that I was just in a strong age group when I went through high school. And so there's actually not that many people that are as quick as Jacob, Riley, Max, and so I was, came back onto the roads and found out that I actually sit quite highly within South Australia. So I thought, oh, this is actually good now. Now I can enter a half or a marathon knowing that I can be competitive and not get my ass handed to me.
Yeah. Okay. What does training look like for someone like you?
Usually just run anywhere from 160 to 180 Ks a week. Yeah. In a perfect world, that's like, nothing's ever perfect, but 160 to 180 Ks a week of running. Especially if I'm training for a marathon. If I'm training for a trail race, probably take 40 Ks off that. I think I've worked out that it's good to peak maybe at that mileage, but for trails, if you run that mileage, it's hard to have the same power output. And a lot of trail running is you need to have power to explode out of corners and run down hills and do all that sort of stuff. Whereas when it comes to racing marathons, generally the more mileage, the better, up to about that 160, 180, 200K mark if you're handling it. And so in that breakdown of that week, there's generally 2 sessions and a long run with a variety of easy runs or maybe steady runs and some gym and recovery in there. But the specifics aren't that important, besides getting the long run right each week so that you can complete 160 Ks. The rest of it is just keep yourself entertained.
How do you, I guess, like, if you have, let's say, trail events, road events planned, how do you structure that so that, you're saying that you have to go maybe 40K under for a trail? How do you structure that yourself? Like, do you plan a year out? Oh, these are the events that I'm going to do. What does that look like for someone like you?
Yeah, definitely planning a year out. And that's where going back to at the start, like, you got to know what goals you want and why. And so if you think about this year for me, I've just come off Adelaide Marathon, and the goal there was to win and get some prize money and have a good training run, and also set myself up for, there's a couple of good domestic marathons over the next few months. So it's basically marathon season for the next 2 or 3 months, and the training will peak there. Then once that happens, you go, okay, well, you can't just keep running marathons 12 months of the year round because you'll get stale. So what I'll probably look to do is cut back some of the volume, because I've built that massive volume through marathons, and then incorporate some more trail specific stuff for the end of the year and into summer of next year. And then on the flip side, you go, okay, well, once you've done the trail stuff, you'll be nice and strong, and you'll have given yourself a bit of a break from looking at your watch and aiming for splits. So you'll be a bit fresher to go back and attack a marathon or something different, maybe a 5K, maybe a track race. So it's all about making sure you know when to like pull the different levers to get that enough creativity, but you can't also go, okay, 1 month I'm doing a 50K, 1 month I'm doing a marathon, 1 month I'm doing a 5K. It has no flow. And so you've got to create that sort of sense of flow that I think probably only yourself really needs to understand. And once you've ticked that, then like you'll enjoy your training and you'll enjoy your racing. It doesn't have to make sense to everyone, but it makes sense to me. And yeah, in the past I've gotten it wrong, but you know, I'm the only one that has to live with myself. So it's like, doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah. What would it look like as a coach? What would it look like for somebody else though? Like somebody else who isn't training to compete, is looking for maybe, because marathon, like you were saying, marathon season is ahead of us, really. You have somebody out there that's running their first, second marathon to finish it, to maybe get a PB. What do you think, like, how do you think it differs from a person like that versus what you're striving for?
Everyone is different, but the general person, I would recommend how I sort of got into it is do a 50K trail race first. Go have fun. Go, like, you'll get a marathon in the way, but go spend 6-7 hours running along a trail. The volunteers are awesome. Build up to it with some 20-30K trail races, but anyone can do that, and you can walk some butts. You tick that off maybe after 3-4 months of building up to it, or maybe a year of building up to it, however long you need. And then you go, right, now I've got the body that is capable of running a 50K trail race. I'm going to go and see how fast I can run 42Ks on the road, because anyone can just go out and run 42Ks. 6-hour marathoners, 7-hour marathoners, we'd all be surprised. But the marathon itself is only the marathon if you go and do it properly and race it. If you're just going out to jog, and if you're a 2:30 runner and you're going to jog a 3:30 marathon, that's not really a marathon. You've just jogged 42Ks. So I think there's benefit in some of the trail races that exist now of just jogging a 50K, completing a section of trail, and then going, right, let's now sharpen up and do a marathon and actually commit to racing a marathon for 42Ks and finding out how well I stack up. That's how I would structure it. And then after a marathon, then I would rest for, 3 or 4 weeks, and then start to slowly build up again and maybe hit some PBs in the 5K, 10K. And then you might want to throw in a 30K race, or you might want to do another trail race to go, look, I really just need to get comfortable with being out there and looking at my watch and seeing 40Ks on my watch, because when I did my marathon, I wasn't so comfortable at that part. And I need to build a body that is a bit more durable.
Yeah. For you, was it always when you got into road running, was it marathon, or what? Why that event for you, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. For me, like, I did a marathon in 2017, and for me that was always like the pinnacle. Like, I like a 5K because it's park run, but a 10K and a half marathon don't really evoke that same mental imagery of what a marathon is. You see some of the storytelling around a marathon with the Olympics and just these famous events overseas, just what happens to people's bodies in a marathon, because you need to have that sense of grit and resilience that you don't need to rely on so much in a 5K, 10K. So that's why I like the challenge of a marathon the most, because if you get it right, then it feels great, it feels awesome. And if you get it wrong, then it feels terrible. And so having that risk of having it go wrong and being prepared for that on race day, but still, doing everything you can to control it and challenge yourself, the reward is so much better. It's that classic like risk reward profile. You get a 5K wrong a little bit, you may be 10 seconds slower than you want. 10K, you may be a minute slower. A marathon, you could blow up by 20 minutes. But there's no shame in that for me, because it's like you've committed to the training, you committed to the race, and yeah, sometimes you just got things wrong, but you only know that once you commit.
For you, when it comes to behind the scenes, so when you are training, you're putting that 160, 180K in. Behind the scenes, when it comes to niggle management, when it comes to maybe injury prevention, what does that look like for you?
For me, sleep is the number one, and trying to like have a very stress-free life. Last year, I guess my best marathons were when I wasn't doing much during the week. I raced Sydney Marathon after I'd been in Europe for a month, and traveling is a bit stressful, but most of the time you're in Europe for a month during summer. Like, it's pretty fun, and that was an awesome experience. And so the stress and the sleep thing come down to it. What I'm finding at the moment, having had a few niggles in the last 6 months, a rest day a week is an incredible tool. Just for someone like me that's now getting to a point where running is, it's not my income, but like it's a big part of my life. And I need to make sure that, I'm taking it a lot more seriously than I used to, because it has a lot more consequences if I don't. A rest day a week allows me to just disconnect and really, let the stress drop down, get my hormones back in check, sleep, reset everything, and just attack the next 6 days of training. The same way I used to attack 7 days of training when I was a little bit younger. But yeah, the rest day is a key for me now. Eating enough food and sleeping, and just enjoying your training. If you don't enjoy your training for like a week, then that's generally a good sign to know that you need to recover a bit more or change things up.
When it comes to, you were talking about like peak and everything. So the person that is going out and they're running their marathon, what does peak look like? So maybe if you can describe that through a training block, and what things look like leading up to a marathon. So when should somebody start planning, for example? When should somebody look at potentially peak week, and then where do things go from there leading up to a marathon? Generally
speaking, because everyone's different.
Yeah.
I would say 6 months out is the latest time that you could be locking down a marathon. 12 months out is great, but I mean, you got plenty of time. 3 months out is a bit like stressful. You need to have come off a good thing. You got no time to lose essentially from 3 months out. 6 months out, great. We can spend a month or two just getting some consistent training in, and maybe you have been doing consistent training. Great. We can add a few more things in, but in those first, say, 1 to 2 months, in that little period, you're just really laying the foundation for the specific work that comes in the months 3 and 4. And then that 5th month would be the peak month, or where you build up to a really big effort in the last week of it. And for most people, that would look like a half marathon or a 30K effort. And if you can do that, recover and feel strong, then you're not really chasing too much in that final month. You're just tapping into things, little bits here and there, and then putting it all out on race day.
For someone like you, when it comes to race day logistics, what does it look like for you the days before, the morning of? Let's get into the nitty and gritty.
Yeah, I love racing, and I really, because I loved playing sport as a kid, and so any race it's like, a 3 or 4 day build up to a game, and it's awesome. Like Wednesday is generally, so if we start from the start of the week, like Monday is easy run, morning and afternoon. Starting to get a bit excited. Tuesday, maybe a last bit of intensity, and you're not looking for too much there. Everyone usually stresses about how that goes, but it doesn't do any good to stress. Like, just smile and get it done. Like, it's grand final week. Like, how good is this? And then Wednesday, another easy run, but I usually start to think about like what the next few days will look like. Go to the shops, because on Thursday I might start to have like my last sort of normal meal, and just another easy jog. Thursday night, like definitely packing things if I'm flying out for a race, and organizing that, and having everything organized. So that's like, okay, if I'm flying in on Friday, how am I getting from the airport to the hotel? And then where am I going to run on Friday afternoon? Where am I going to run? And having all those things organized.
You don't wait until you get to the location.
No.
Okay.
I do all your research.
Okay.
And that also comes in when you're booking your hotel. Okay, well, how close is it to the local food place? Can I walk there? Is there a place that sells pasta around the corner? Okay, there's not. Well, then that's a bad place to stay. Like,
I don't do any of that, but okay, carry on.
You got to like control as many variables as you can.
Yeah.
And that's why racing at home is so good, because you have it all in your favor. But and that's why when I go to Melbourne, I stay with family friends, because I know all those things. I know I can bring pasta with me and cook it at their house. Because on Friday, like I do a run, and then I'm having a carb breakfast afterwards, and I'm eating 500 grams of pasta for lunch on Friday. This is for a marathon. And then in the afternoon, maybe I've traveled somewhere or I've finally got there. I'll eat another 500 grams of pasta, cook it up, and just get through it. And then Saturday morning, I do another easy run, maybe with some surges or strides. Come home, have some more pasta, and then I'll switch to rice on Saturday night. And Saturday afternoon, you generally have to go to the race and get your bib or drop your bottles off. Sometimes if it's a big race, there's a meeting that you have to go to, and that's the fun part. You get a look at your competitors or people you're going to run with, and you start to get really excited and ask any questions about the race that you might have found in the briefing, or just talk about the course with people and what they're planning to do. But then once you've done that, and once you've had your rice and your dinner for Saturday night, it's just trying to get to bed so that Sunday morning you wake up, coffee, toast with honey, get on the road somewhere. Maybe you have to catch the train to start location or a drive there, get there with plenty of time, do some warm-ups, stretching, and then you've done it all. Like, you've done all the preparation. It's time to enjoy the race. And that's the best part. And then you do the race, and then after the race, you just get to enjoy, wow, I've done it all, and I can put on some nice warm clothes and have some nice food, and that's not pasta or rice, and really relax, and then get ready for the next one.
What goes through your mind leading up to it? Let's say that Friday when you're at wherever you need to go to it, like, what goes through your mind usually?
Generally thinking about all the training I've done and reviewing that, and making sure that I know what the weather's going to be like on race day and what other competitors there might be. And so that's probably like thinking about the data side of it, of like, this is what I can do to control to have my best race. From a numbers side of, this is the training should correlate to this performance. And then I also start to think about what I want to get out of it in terms of the long-term picture of my running, or maybe things in my past. And so it's like those memes where you see the person in the gym and they're trying to remember all the hard things in their life before the next rep. Like, you're trying to think about motivating things. And so I'll watch a few Instagram reels, or I might watch a movie like Rocky, or a couple of other favorite movies, and just trying to build up enough content that you can rely on in the race. And I've done that in the past before, where you might think of particular songs or movie moments that, okay, you look at the course map and you go, right, when I get to that point, I'm going to think about this moment in my life, or think about, why this race will be good for me in the next 6 months for this race. And I pulled that technique from Yanis Kouros, who's like most famous ultra runner from the 1980s. and he used to listen to Greek poetry and mythology, and he would sing them songs to himself to motivate him. And it's that art side that I find you can really tap into. That's more motivating for me than knowing that, oh, I did a 30K long run at this pace, so therefore I should be able to do this. It's like, no, do you remember that scene in Rocky where this happened and he just kept going and you're like, yeah, I can do that.
You can do that.
And you start imagining Eye of the Tiger and
Yeah.
you're like, yes, that's me. Like, come on.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. And then like during the race, you know, you're thinking about all these things and then it's the passion from the crowd and some random person who will like really look you in the eyes and give you a big rev up and you'll be like, come on, I got this. Like I got to go. And yeah, I love that part of it too. Because sometimes if you do enough planning beforehand and enough thinking, then during the race you don't need to think and you just run.
Yeah. I think like the crowd, it can be quite electric too. And that's probably a difference between a marathon versus maybe a 5Ks. I think sometimes you don't have that crowd around you, and it's a different feeling sometimes as well when you're in the two different events, basically. When it comes to that start line though, what's going through your mind right then? Like 30, 60, a couple 5 minutes, because you're probably out there at the start line a bit earlier. What's going through your mind leading up to that?
I'm just trying to relax, and that's probably a good time to not lean into the crowd so much. Yeah, just definitely trying to relax, and you get through the first K and just build into it from there. That's on the weekend, I was really just thinking, okay, get the first K done, and then you got 41 to go after that. And you'll basically get on a roll. And yeah, trying not to look around too much and just, relax, stay calm and wait, because you spend a lot of time thinking about the start of the race, and it's important to think about the end of a race because that's where your place matters, especially when you're racing people. You know, if you don't get any points for beating someone to the 5K checkpoint. You win money because you beat everyone at the end. So that's kind of what you're thinking about, you know, just like wait till the very end to pull that final trigger and that crowd energy.
When it comes to strategy, like, you know, when let's say you have somebody that you're coaching and you're trying to educate them through, let's say, a heart rate spike or adrenaline or whatever through a marathon, like what are things that people need to worry about when it comes to like going too hard out of the gate or whatever it might be, strategy through a marathon to get them through?
That's a tricky question. I guess
someone like me who goes hot right out of the gate, like what would somebody, because I think that's a common thing, what would somebody like that need to really focus on?
In the past, I've given people like a speed limit, like don't go faster than this. And so having that, as opposed to, I think a lot of people get, you know, okay, if my marathon pace is 4:17, I need to hit 4:17 at the first K or else it will be complete failure. And that's not the right way to go about it. Like that's the end outcome that you want. Yes. But I used to do that as well. You go off and you think, looking at your watch every 30 seconds, like, okay, I'm at 4:15. Like, okay, this is good, but like maybe I want to get to 4:13 just to give myself a little bit more leeway. It's like, no. So having a speed limit. So even if you say your goal pace is 4:17, your speed limit for the first K might be 4:20. So do not go past 4:20 per K and just get to the first K. And then, okay, we get there and have a look and then maybe stay at 4:20 per K for the first 5Ks. I've used that before. I've also used more just general things of like someone who we didn't work on a pace. I just said to them, like, imagine you're getting up in the morning and you're sort of stumbling around the morning and then you put the kettle on and you boil the water for the coffee. That's how I want you to approach the first 10Ks. You just stumble through it like you're barely awake. And then from 10 to 20Ks, that's like you're drinking your coffee. You haven't quite hit the coffee, hasn't got the bloodstream, but it's, you know, having something that people can mentally reflect on has worked for me in the past as a coach. But the great thing about being a coach is that everyone, you know, gravitates to things differently. So some people might be like, nah, I don't drink coffee. That doesn't work for me. Yeah. Some people will go, oh, no, I can't use the speed limit thing. So you have to find a different approach for everyone. But they're probably just two things that I've used in the past.
Yeah, those are good tips. Yeah, because I think it's hard too sometimes. Like when you're first starting your first 20K, like, and it feels good, you just don't know what 35 could feel like sometimes. And like you were saying, if you're really on your watch 24/7, 417, 417, like it can add up real quick sometimes, really. What watch are you using for it to say 417?
Yeah, I'm wearing a Sunto.
Yeah, okay.
But like you really got to go off
Yeah.
like the time
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
everyone's watches will be out. So you're
Yeah.
just looking at the K marker and
Yeah.
then yeah, sometimes the K markers are wrong and you're
Mhm.
like, geez, what time are we doing?
Yeah, yeah. When it comes to nutrition, what what works for you? Because that can be quite individual as well. What works for you usually?
I've been using a mixture of gels and drinks from Bix, which is an Australian brand, created by a friend of mine, which is really cool. And yeah, like he's got some good gels and drinks that have a high sodium content in them. And historically, I just used to put out a 250 ml pop top with Staminade in them, and that was fine. But I would have to sometimes load it up with like a hydrolyte tablet for a little bit extra stuff. Whereas now I just use the Bix stuff every 5Ks, have a bottle, and then sometimes I'll go a gel, and that might be at like 10Ks or 20Ks or 30, but I'm having a drink at every 5Ks. Uh, Sometimes I'll even like just tape extra gels to my drinks and just carry them with me so that I have backups, because every now and then for some reason you can't get to a drink station or the drink's not out there when you thought it was, or you drop a gel. I've had that happen to me in a race and I had 2 gels on me, dropped one, and it was like, it doesn't matter. I was only ever going to take one. So
What did your last 6 months, so you were saying that you're coming off an injury. What does, I guess, getting back onto the scene look like for you when it comes to racing, running, that kind of stuff?
I had to first get like pain free. So I had an Achilles niggle that then turned into a upper leg hip issue, and all because I was trying to rush things. And so first of all, I had to get pain free, and I had to sort of make sure that I had everything else in order off away from running, because I was finding that things that weren't running were starting to affect my running and my recovery. So I had to think about them and make some changes so that I could enjoy my running the way I used to in corn. And once I did that, then it was just about building back the volume in a way that I would be encouraged enough to not rush it, because I have a tendency to overdo things. And if I don't have a built in sort of method that I trust in, I'm just going to rush it. So I created a little plan for myself that had, all right, we're going to do 6 days a week for 6 weeks. And it doesn't matter if that's 60Ks a week or 6Ks a week or 100Ks a week. As long as I maintain 6 days a week for 6 weeks and get to the end of that without any question of how fast I'm going or whatever, I will be happy. And that was a really helpful tool for me, because maybe 4th or 5th week, I was starting to get a bit, okay, like how fast am I going? And maybe I'll push this session. And I thought, no, that's not the idea of these 6 weeks. It's just to actually just run for 6 days a week for 6 weeks. Once I ticked off that, then it was like, okay, now we can assess where we're at. I did a 5K race and I went pretty well for where I thought I was. And then it was like, okay, well, now we can start to look at what races you want to do and how you can use races along the way to make sure that you get a result that is basically interesting enough to train for. Because I can, like anyone, we can do races, but it's not the point of doing the races. You want to put together a training plan that allows you to be at your best on that race day, because that fits in with your overall calendar.
What you've already mentioned a few things, but what do you get out of running, do you think?
The main thing I get is feeling really fit and healthy and enjoying having something to do from 6:30 till 7:30 in the morning and from 4:30 till 5:30 in the afternoon, and that feeling of being unstoppable on the weekend and just moving through terrain and breathing and just sweating and just really in control. That's one thing. And then the other thing is it's almost an element of like when you play Pokemon, you work through the region and you collect different gym badges and you level up your Pokemon and you take on the Elite Four. And there's a sense in running where it's like that. You get different PBs, you make a state team, you make a national team, you win a race here, you get some prize money, and those are all just really cool elements of part of the running game to like to chase different things. And everyone's game is different, and that's the really cool thing. You can compete against other people, but really you're only competing against yourself. And coming back to that is really nice. So having those two sort of outlets, one running 6:30 in the morning and trying to feel really fit and healthy, that's not performance based. I can do that as a 6 minute per K, 5K runner. If I feel really fit and healthy and I'm just jogging around, that's okay. But then the other one is a performance based metric where if I'm getting PBs and I'm winning races, then that's a really cool game to play when it's going well for you.
Yeah. I think it's also too like shout out Max because Max is the one who gave this one when he was on. Like it's also like the global equalizer as well. Like when you're out there, you could have whether you're in a club or whether you're in a group or whatever. Like you could have a surgeon running next to like a first year student, but like they're out there together and they're chatting and they're just running, right? Like it's quite cool in that concept because everybody's the same out there when you're running and whether you're running by yourself with a group, it's kind of like, or even if you're in a race, like everybody's out there, maybe jogging, maybe running, doing whatever, but like everybody out there is running. So it's kind of like an equalizer in that sense, which is cool. What is motivating you going forwards now?
Just continually getting better. Trying to get PBs and until that's no longer possible, and then just want to make sure that you're maximizing the potential. So, yeah, I'd like to think I can get faster in the marathon. There will come a point though where I'll be content with my PBs or know that there's very small margins of what my genetic ability will allow me to do. But from there, then it would be like some of the different trail races that I still want to do, because a trail race is a lot different because it's different terrain, different community, different town, different place you got to travel to. And yeah, it's just a whole different bunch of fun and you can go 100 Ks, 160 Ks, 200 K races where it's just about completing it. So that's the cool thing about running. There's so much more there's too much to achieve. So you'll always have stuff to look on.
I think like running has boomed in the last few years ever since COVID. I reckon it's hit that peak now. Like I don't know that we're gonna have a spike like we've had in the next couple of years, really. For all of the new runners out there, let's say they're just starting to get into it. They're starting their first 5Ks or they're aiming to do a 5K. Because I think something that I hear all the time is like, why do you like running so much? Like, I'm out there, I find it miserable. What's a piece of advice that you would give that person, really?
Whenever someone says to me, "Oh, I'm not a runner. I tried it, didn't work for me," I generally give them the feedback that maybe you didn't try it for long enough, and you might have had a different mindset would help. Because I know that even if I get injured and if I go for a run, I'm not going to like that. Like it's going to feel clunky and horrible. The joy of running comes from when you find, like any activity, when you find consistency in it and control, and you've allowed yourself enough time to build that up. And I think beginner runners don't quite get that opportunity. And I think it's going to be a bit more difficult in the future because there's so many things that beginner runners now get thrown at them, like run clubs and running groups and new shoes, and you got to have this watch and you got to do that. And it's not that hard. Like you can just go out and run and just have your own relationship with it. And if you get that sorted, then you can introduce all the other things. But allowing yourself to get that consistency, and it'll take, like any habit, 3 or 4 weeks to build. And if you approach it with the right mindset, 99% of people will find a way of running that works for them. And that will be different for everyone. And that's, unfortunately, we compare what we do to everyone else. And so generally, if you think, oh, I'm not having fun because it looks like all those people are having so much fun and I'm not having fun, therefore running's not for me. And you go, well, that's probably not how it's actually going down.
Yeah. Yeah. You hit some interesting things. What are you doing footwear wise? What are you wearing during the week usually?
So I'm lucky enough to be sponsored by ASICS now. And I'm wearing Nova Blasts and Super Blasts for my training runs, and just having a mixture of them and rotating between them.
When are you gravitating towards the Nova versus the Super?
Nova when I'm running, I don't know, 4:30, 4:40. Super Blast when I'm feeling a little bit more excited, 4 minutes, whatever. Generally, if I want to slow myself down and keep it an easy run, I'll pick the Nova Blast. And then, for racing, Meta Fuji if I'm on the trails, and then the Meta Speed Sky or Edge if I'm on the roads, and also for sessions.
What's coming up for you? Do you have your next year planned already, or are you in the planning stage?
I have planned to race Gold Coast Marathon. So that's middle of July. And then Sydney and Melbourne Marathon are both on my radar. And depending on how Gold Coast goes, I might race one of them particularly hard or just both of them or something. And then at the end of the year, I'd like to do a 50K trail race again and then do a few more trail races over summer. And so, follow that plan that I alluded to earlier of like doing a couple of marathons, and then I'm going to change it up and go into the trails.
Do you stick domestic or international? What's it like when you pick stuff?
For me at the moment, just domestic. But I am definitely, when I was injured over the summer, I thought, okay, I really need to make sure that I do a major international marathon, because I'm going to get to a point where I'm mid to late 30s and maybe life's different for me and I don't have the time to commit to it anymore, and I'll regret not doing a major marathon. The trade-off for me is that it costs a lot to get overseas, and there's also an opportunity cost. If you do a major overseas marathon, then you're generally missing out on a domestic marathon, and I love participating in them. So I've sort of got, like, I haven't done Gold Coast Marathon yet, and I've only done Melbourne Marathon once. So I know once I've done them a few times, they will wear off in terms of an excitement thing, and then it'll be, okay, I might go do a race in Japan or America or Europe.
Yeah. To the person listening right now, what is either a takeaway, piece of advice, or just something that you want to leave them with?
Enjoy your running. And if you've got that simple metric down pat, everything else will work out for you. If you're not enjoying your training, change it up. There's no harm in, if you're not, you don't like the session your coach has given you, or you don't like the session, just do something fun. Go put on some music and run around the block. Not everything has to be perfect, and not every run has to be, oh, this is an easy run, so I'm going to keep it easy. Just run and listen to your body and enjoy it. And if you have a bad run or a bad race, it's not that bad. Like, there's always going to be another race. No matter what you do, the sun will always come up, and there'll be another way to spend your money on a race fee.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Fraser. Thank you for sharing. And spending the time with the listener today.
No worries. Thank you, Jordan.